lethal aspect of this story is one that people don't want to talk about.
Radiation permeates everything. It gets there, it stays there. Wind, earth, and water.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Breeze. Breezeway Productions The Breeze, where we bring you the latest in independent films and film festival news, and we are happy to kick off our coverage of this year's Slamdance Film Festival, the 2023 edition, and we have an official selection filmmaker here with us today, representing his film Downwind, director and writer Mark Shapiro. How are you, Mark?
Great, Alex. Thank you for having me here.
Right on. Well, thank you for coming on the show and taking the time to talk today. Tell me a little bit about the film Downwind in the festival this year.
So we're super excited to be at Slamdance, and our film Downwind tells the story of 928 nuclear detonations that took place at the Nevada test site from 1945 to 1992. And actually, let me check that. Downwind tells the story of the 928 nuclear detonations that took place at the Nevada test site from 1951 to 1992, and the impact that those detonations had on adjacent communities and in particular marginalized communities like Native Americans and ranchers and Mormon communities that live sort of nearby to the detonations that took place during the Cold War. I don't think a lot of people were aware that there were that many shots, as they call them, that took place in that area of Nevada. And we're also, as we did our research and dug deeper, we were just sort of flabbergasted by the impact of those detonations on the communities, not only health-wise, but also the fact that the test site itself is located on deeded Shoshane land that has been restricted to that community where they can't even use it anymore. So we felt like this is a story that was quote unquote almost breaking news, but it's 30 years ago and where they stopped the testing, but the testing impact and the radioactive fallout continues to impact folks that we call downwinders. And as we get to the conclusion of the film, we look into the detonations, you see that those detonations really impacted all of us. And so one of the things we like to say is that we're all downwinders, and that sort of gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah, I was able to get a watch of the film, and it was very informative. I didn't know there were that many detonations as well, some on a very small scale, some on a large scale, affecting Utah and Nevada, Arizona as well, in different areas of magnitude. So you have a litany of people that are involved in this that you interview. So I was curious that you started with the Native American tribes that are affected by this. What was it like, and how did you get into the process of getting them to be involved in this coverage? Did they come to you? Did you go to them?
This film was all proactive on our part. We did the outreach to everyone, and one of the things when we put pen to paper in figuring out what this film was going to be about, we really wanted to make sure that we had a representation from what we considered to be sort of the speakers of those communities. And it was difficult in the end to, you should see my list of people that we didn't include in this film. There were so many that we couldn't include just based on time. And I think we have 13 to 14 people in the film, which is a lot for a documentary, depending on the documentary. And we felt like it was really important to hear from the Native American community and go right to the principal man of the Shoshane Nation of Indians, whose land is continuing to be used as a test site, and to sort of ask him, Ian Zabarty, that question: how does it feel that your land is restricted, and what was the impact of the blast, and what's the price of the Cold War, of patriotism, of activism, all of those things that were critical. And so everybody in our film falls into that category of quote unquote activist patriots. And so I think you asked me, the Native American community. Why do we go there first? Well, the land is technically deeded Shoshane Nation land, and that was what kind of brought us initially to obviously the test site, which is the epicenter of everything, and and then the other surrounding communities, which I can get to.
Yes, you did focus on that for some of the film. You also had a lot of archival footage that you put in there. So you have propaganda videos that were done by the Defense Department. You have informational videos for the public. So tell me a little bit more about how you dove into some of the archival footage that you included in this.
I think what was interesting about the research for this film was every single bit of research took us down another level of research. I'm not going to say rabbit hole, because I feel like it was even more eye-opening. The archival footage that we found through what you call the propaganda films, which many of which were done by the Atomic Energy Commission, Department of Defense, were all created at this place called Lookout Mountain Laboratory, which I don't think many people know about Lookout Mountain Lab, but at one time was one of the most prominent Hollywood studios in the world, and literally in California. We were just, again, taken aback at what we called, again, propaganda or newsreels, or however you want to describe it, Cold War films. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of Cold War films, all of them sort of talking about why the testing was done, but it was all coming from a very pointed perspective. If you want, you should look into the directors that were at Lookout Mountain. It was a pretty remarkable site involving Disney, involving Marilyn Monroe, Bob Hope. Just lots of people were part of this sort of machine that became kind of the communications tool that told the story of the Cold War, and from a very America, capital A, perspective. So again, that was one of those things. You could look through these films and it was difficult to choose which film to use, because every one of them was, as you see in the film, eye-opening, and it shouldn't be eye-opening in 2023, in my opinion. It should be something that was known.
Right. So it is very informative about what happened over there on the West Coast, or in the Western United States, in regarding to nuclear testing. And then from the archival footage, you had a shift to a Hollywood interaction with the subject matter. Included in the documentary, you also have Michael Douglas, and then you talk about the China Syndrome, which is a film that came out right before 3 Mile Island. You have Lewis Black that's involved in it, and he had things involved with his comedy sketch that he did on stage, making it humorous regarding these videos. So I'm curious about how they got involved in it. Are they continuing their activism for awareness regarding nuclear activity? How did you put all of that together?
Again, when we looked to the folks that we wanted to be in this film, we wanted to get the best representation. And what was interesting to us was they were available to us, like Martin Sheen, who's quote unquote the most arrested man in Hollywood, who had protested at the Nevada test site with Ian Zabarte of the Shoshane Nation. There were all these coincidences and things that were intertwining. Michael Douglas has pledged his life to fight against nuclear weapons and nuclear power. He's a staunch anti-nukes activist, and a member of the United Nations, a messenger of peace, actually the longest serving messenger of peace in the world for the UN. And so again, and Lewis Black was interesting too, because we came across his footage, as you mentioned, Black on Broadway, which one of his pieces that was on HBO, and he talked about sort of the preposterousness, if that's a word, the idea that you could hide under your desk to protect yourself from a nuclear bomb. And so it was yes, it was interesting, but not in almost in an audacious way, or in a ludicrous way, where you just
ridiculous. It's flat out ridiculous.
Yeah, like and I love his line where he says, I'm hiding under kindling. And so we felt, as I mentioned before, the coincidences, maybe they're not so coincidental. I feel like all of these people are interrelated, because they all speak out against the cause. Lewis Black obviously is he's an activist in his way. He talks about the way he uses his mouth as his activist tool. We interviewed him at the West Bank Cafe in Midtown. Mm-hmm. I'm a former New Yorker myself, so the being back there was just eye-opening, because I've always known about Lewis Black and his comedy. but his comedy comes from a place of, where you talk about how tragedy plus time equals comedy. It comes from a place of activism. And so it was important that we had him in there, because I feel like he, again, sort of expressed the identity of where our nation is. We're looking right at these things like global warming or nuclear weapons at the time, all the way up till 1992. So again, those are the reasons why we wanted to have the spokespeople of America speaking about this topic.
Yeah, it was very informative. I enjoyed the film immensely. There were things in it that I did not know prior to seeing it. It's well constructed. You have the Hollywood take on it, people that are activists against it. It is narrated by Martin Sheen as well. Another great activist. These people are doing everything that they can to bring awareness to the subject matter, as you have with this film. Downwind, an official selection of the Slamdance Film Festival this year. Do you know when you will be premiering in Park City in just a few weeks?
Yes. So we'll be premiering as a spotlight screening on January 23rd. And we'll be at the Treasure Mountain Inn. And that's the film will be playing at 5:30 p.m. and that's a ticketed event. You have to get tickets for that. However, we're also having a panel on January 23rd in Park City, also at the Treasure Mountain Inn at 11:15 a.m. So that panel will feature significant members of the Downwind community and narrated by, can I give you information about that actually? Or
Of course. All of the information that is in regards to this will be posted below. So when this video goes live, it will be on all of our social platforms, and it will be also via streaming on Spotify. So it will be in the details when we publish the video.
Okay, because I'm looking. So our panelists, we have Mary Dixon, Claudia Peterson, Ian Zabarte. All three of them were in our film. Ian, again, is the principal man of the Western bands of the Shoshane Nation of Indians. Mary Dixon is a PBS writer from Salt Lake, and also a playwright from Salt Lake City, a Downwinder. Claudia Peterson, who is one of the most, she's a great story. I'd like to back up and talk about her for a second if we have time.
Yeah.
But Claudia is from St. George, Utah. She'll be there too. She lost as you saw in the film, a tremendous number of people to what she feels was, as a result of the testing. And we'll also have Scott Williams. He's a nuclear policy consultant from Heal, Utah. Heal, Utah is an organization in that state that helps with, nuclear issues and, the storage of nuclear waste. Utah is handles a lot of the nation's nuclear waste. And so Heal Utah will be there. And it's moderated by Laura Jones, and she's the host of a show called Radioactive on KRCL Community Radio Salt Lake.
Wow. It's a very elaborate panel with lots of people that are engaged with this topic and looking to talk about it. So if you're interested in this subject matter of nuclear activity, downwinders, if you're Utah local or you're visiting Park City and you're covering Slamdance or you're attending Slamdance, all of these reasons are good to go to check this out. So we will have the dates and details and ticketing link below when we do run this coverage. And I want to thank you for spending the time to talk with me today, Mark Shapiro, director and writer of Downwind. It's a pleasure speaking with you about this, and we hope you have a wonderful and successful premiere at Slamdance this year.
Thanks, Alex. Really do appreciate it.
Radiation permeates everything. It gets there, it stays there.